Although the Columbus Zoo has existed since 1927, it was 1951 before we acquired gorillas. Earl Davis, the zoo's director at that time, arranged the purchase of 2 gorillas at a cost of $10,000. Captured in Africa, Millie Christine, 2 years old, and Baron Macambo, 5 years old, arrived in Columbus in January of 1951. With hopes of producing offspring, the keeper staff gave the 2 gorillas many opportunities to spend time together. However, after Baron Macambo exhibited what was believed to be aggressive behavior toward Millie Christine, the zoo director halted the process and made the decision that the 2 should not be put together again. 5 years passed, and in 1956, a vet student and part-time gorilla keeper named Warren Thomas observed some very interesting interactions between the 2 animals. At about the same time every month, Millie would get excited and back up against her cage, and Macambo would gently play with her. On 3 separate occasions during the spring of 1956, when Thomas thought the time was right, he would allow the 2 gorillas to spend time together. Shortly thereafter, the behavior stopped, and Millie Christine appeared to be getting bigger. Zoo director Davis was thrilled with the possibility of a gorilla birth, and assuming the gestation period would be similar to that of humans, he announced that the zoo was expecting a baby gorilla to be born sometime around the 8th of January, 1957. Zookeeper Warren Thomas arrived at the zoo early on the morning of December 22, 1956, to find a newborn gorilla still in its amniotic sac lying on the cold concrete floor of Millie's cage. He quickly transferred Millie to another enclosure, then retrieved the baby and took her to the kitchen. He placed her on a counter, broke the amniotic sac, and resuscitated her. This amazing event was the first birth of a gorilla anywhere in the world in a captive environment. This 3.5-pound squirmy bundle of life eventually would come to be known as Colo. Visitors flocked to the zoo to see this little miracle, who was originally called Cuddles, until a Name the Baby contest provided her with her new moniker. The zoo set a new attendance record in 1957, a record which would stand until 1992. Not much was known about gorilla infants in 1956. Was her 3.5-pound weight good? What should she be fed? Many questions arose during the first days after Colo's birth, and the staff did their best to keep Colo comfortable and healthy. The box of rags next to the kitchen heater soon gave way to a brand new nursery, and the nursery staff grew rapidly as more and more zoo employees and their families shared the 24-hour care of the newest member of our zoo family. Of course, the media got involved on a national level. The Today Show called, the New York Times ran daily updates, and magazines, including Time, produced many wonderful articles. Our little gorilla even graced Life magazine. The crowds continued to visit. In 1958, Colo, who by now was a star, got a male playmate named Bongo. Bongo was wild-born and similar in age to Colo. The 2 would spend the next 25 years together and produce 3 offspring of their own. In 1968, Colo again receives notoriety by giving birth to Emmy, the first second-generation gorilla born in captivity. Emmy would be joined a year later by Oscar, and in 1971 by Tony, Colo's 3rd and last offspring. As our gorilla population grew, new habitats were created. By 1973, our zoo began participating in breeding and loan programs with other institutions. In 1978, Jack Hanna arrived as the new zoo director, and Colo, now 21, along with the rest of the gorilla family, is moved into a new habitat which allowed them to be outside for the first time. As we moved into the 1980s, under the direction of Jack Hanna, the zoo continued to expand, our gorilla population was thriving, and programs now well established, such as the Species Survival Plan and Gorilla Surrogacy Program, have begun to be implemented. These programs enable institutions to maintain genetic diversity through animal exchanges and promote a more natural gorilla family atmosphere. In 1983, Colo, already a grandmother, bathes in all of the fanfare surrounding another first for our zoo, the birth of gorilla twins Macambo II and Masuba. This is the first time twin gorillas are born in the Western Hemisphere. During this time, world-renowned gorilla researcher Diane Fossey visits our zoo and helps our staff create more naturalistic and stimulating habitats for our gorillas. In 1984, Colo's father, Baron Macambo, passes away, leaving Colo as the senior gorilla in our population. In 1986, Colo is 30, and for the first time in the history of breeding captive gorillas, an infant is raised by its own mother when Bridget cares for her newborn son, Fossey. On January 2, 1987, Jungle Jack Hanna celebrated his 40th birthday. Our gorillas celebrated with him when Colo's grandson was born on the very same day. This lovely new addition to our gorilla family was appropriately named JJ. It was quickly realized that JJ's mother was not going to care for him, and an alternative would need to be found. Although Colo was never given the opportunity to raise her own children, she did show very strong maternal instincts. These instincts and the success of the gorilla surrogacy program were proven when Colo chose to raise JJ. Recently, Colo has assumed another role, that of the oldest gorilla in captivity. These days, she chooses to spend most of her time alone, quietly watching everything around her. Colo's significance to all captive animal populations is as important today as it was in 1956. In that time, many changes have occurred both at the zoo and throughout the world. There's no easy way to quantify the impact Colo and her offspring have had, both on the community and the gorilla species as a whole. For over 50 years, Colo has observed virtually all aspects of the care and housing of captive species change for the better. Not only here in Columbus, but at all zoological institutions worldwide. How appropriate that the little girl who started it all is still here with us today, and hopefully for many more years to come.